Welcome to Taiwan Headlines, sharing the news that shapes Taiwan's future. For analysis and context, check out our companion show, Taiwan Report News Brief. I'm your host, Donovan Smith. Taiwan will impose more stringent regulations for flight crews to close loopholes in its prevention and control measures against the pandemic after a cluster infection was linked to a commercial airline pilot. The pilot, who did not follow protocols, refused to wear a mask while on duty and didn't report symptoms. Viva Air, his employer, has since fired him. The Central Epidemic Command Center on Wednesday changed the classification of Thailand, Bhutan, and Australia from countries with a low risk of COVID-19 to having low to moderate risk. The reclassification means that business travelers from the three countries will have to go into quarantine for slightly longer. Up to 3 COVID-19 vaccines developed in Taiwan have completed the first phase of clinical trials and are likely to enter phase 2 trials by the end of this year. According to the results of a survey by the KMT-affiliated National Policy Foundation, 63.4% of the respondents said they did not believe the government will be able to fulfill its pledge to test the ractopamine levels in every shipment of pork arriving from the U.S. Another 58.8% of respondents said they supported opposition parties using, quote, strong tactics to supervise the government's implementation of the import policy, while over half agreed with a statement that ractopamine pork is toxic. The same poll also showed that the KMT's approval rating fell below 20% for the first time since August. It also showed nearly 46% of voters showed no clear preference for any political party, a 9.6% rise from a month earlier. 22.6% of respondents supported the DPP, which is nearly 10 points less than the DPP-sponsored poll discussed in the last Taiwan Report news brief. The KMT has scrapped plans for protests outside the Legislative Yuan against the importation of U.S. pork containing ractopamine. Taiwan reported its first transmitted case of COVID-19 in more than 8 months, which caused them to scrap the plans. Either that, or they feared turnout would be smaller than the rally earlier this fall that coincided with the autumn struggle rally, which was well attended. A group of lawmakers and protesters spent Wednesday night outside the legislature in protest. Independent legislator Fu Quanqi, a.k.a. the King of Hualien, has been transferred to a minimum security prison. He's eligible for parole in October of 2021, when, if he qualifies, could presumably return to the legislature to serve out his term, which runs to 2024. Taiwan's industrial production rose year on year for the 10th consecutive month in November, rising almost 8%. DigiTimes reported the following good news. When tough U.S. sanctions against Huawei took effect in mid-September, Taiwanese chip suppliers did lose massive orders from one of their biggest clients. But Taiwan's IC ecosystem has since seen the void filled up by strong demand from the 5G, AI, HPC, and automotive sectors. Foundry capacity has been tight, resulting in shortages and rising prices in some components segments. All right, that's it for the show today. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. Hit the bell if you're on YouTube to get notifications. And if you can, it'd be very appreciated if you could join us as a patron on Patreon. It's a big help to us here at Taiwan Report.
This has been brought to you by the Taiwan Report. For more content like this, become our patron at report.tw.
哎呦，就是那个台湾狗啦，最喜欢我的台湾狗了。